The first time I heard her cry behind the fence, my heart jumped. It was early morning before the bell rang. I was standing close to the big neem tree near the school gate when I heard the sound. It was not loud, but it cut through my chest like someone begging for help quietly. At first I thought it was a small child, but the voice was older, almost my age. I moved closer to the fence, and the crying stopped like the person heard my footsteps. Then a soft humming started. The kind of humming someone does when they are trying to cover pain inside their chest. That was the day everything started for me, even though I did not know it yet. I should tell you how my mornings used to be before that day. My mother has a small shop in front of our house where she sells biscuits, sachet water, groundnut, bread, and small things like that. Every morning she wakes me up before sunrise to help her arrange the goods. Sometimes I complain in my mind because other boys are still sleeping at that time, but I cannot say it out loud. After we arrange the shop, I carry my bag and start walking to school. I always get to school early. The gate man is never there, so I wait outside. That morning, after hearing the strange sound behind the fence, my body felt different. My heart was beating fast even though I was not running. I did not see anybody. I only saw tall grass and the old abandoned land behind our school. People said nothing was inside there, only broken blocks and dry weeds. But I knew someone was inside. Someone who cried like they were hiding their tears from the whole world. The next day, I tried to act normal. I came early as usual, stood near the gate, and looked around like I was just waiting for the bell. But deep inside, I was waiting for the voice. I wanted to hear it again. I wanted to know if the crying yesterday was real or if my mind was playing tricks on me. As I stood there, I heard the humming again. This time it was a song. A slow Yoruba song that sounded like prayer. Something inside me felt warm and sad at the same time. I pressed my hand on the fence, but the girl did not stop singing. She just kept going like she was alone in her own world. From that day, I started waking up faster. I even helped my mother quickly so I could reach school before the voice started. The singing became part of my morning, like food or water. I still did not know her face. I only knew her voice. Sometimes the song was smooth, sometimes it was shaky like she cried before singing. I wanted to ask her if she was fine, but I did not know how. I did not want to scare her away. One rainy morning, something changed. The rain was falling very heavy, and I was sure she would not come out. But she sang. Her voice was louder that day, soaked inside the rain. My chest tightened because the song sounded like pain. I took one small step towards the fence and whispered with my mouth shaking even though I thought she would not hear me. I asked if she was all right. The singing stopped. I heard her quick breath. Then the sound of footsteps moving away. That was the moment I knew this voice behind the fence was not just a voice. It was a person carrying something heavy. And I wanted to know why. The morning after she walked away from my voice, I felt like I had done something wrong. I kept thinking about how she stopped singing the moment I spoke. Maybe I scared her. Maybe she thought I wanted to mock her. In school that day, everything felt slow. Even when the teacher was calling register, I was thinking about the fence. I wanted to know why she sang in the rain like someone who had nowhere else to go. I tried to distract myself by writing notes and answering questions, but her voice kept coming back to my mind, like wind blowing through a closed window. When school closed, I walked past the back fence. Students hardly passed that side because it was bushy, but I wanted to check something. I leaned to look through the spaces in the zinc. Nothing. Only tall grass and one broken wooden chair. I did not see the girl. I did not hear her. The whole place felt empty. I left the school compound that day, feeling like my whole chest was pulling me backward. The next morning, I came earlier than usual. The sky was still dark blue. My mother even asked why I was rushing, but I pretended not to hear. When I reached the school gate, I stood close to the same spot where I first heard her crying. The air was cold. I could hear a goat bleating far away. My ears were sharp, waiting. At first I heard nothing, then slowly, very slowly, her humming came out from the other side. It was soft, like someone testing if the place was safe. I took one step back from the fence so she would not think I wanted to disturb her again. She hummed longer this time. The sound was smoother, not filled with crying like before. I closed my eyes so I could hear it well. I did not want to miss a single note. I stood still until the school gate finally opened. Even when I entered the school compound, the song stayed in my head. Later that same week, something unexpected happened during music class. Our music teacher, Mrs. Dada, said the school choir needed more voices because a big competition was coming. She said we needed stronger singers. The whole class started shouting names and arguing. I was quiet. I kept thinking about the girl behind the fence. Her voice was better than anybody in my class. Even though she hummed most times, the way she carried the tune made my skin rise. Without thinking too much, I raised my hand and told the teacher that I knew somebody who could sing. Everybody turned to look at me. Some students laughed because they had never seen me talk too much in class. One boy shouted that I was lying. Another girl said I probably heard a radio. I felt heat rise inside my body, but I did not talk. I just kept my eyes on the teacher. She asked who the person was. I told her it was someone behind the fence. The class laughed again, louder this time. They thought I was joking. But the teacher did not laugh. She looked at me calmly and told me to wait after class. When the bell rang, I stayed behind while everyone else rushed out. The classroom became quiet. The breeze entered through the window and blew the papers on her table. She asked me to tell her how I knew the person behind the fence. I told her everything. I told her about the crying, the songs, the rain day, and how the girl always came early. I told her I did not know her face, only her voice. The teacher listened quietly. Then she did something that made my chest tighten. She smiled small, the kind of smile that is sad and kind at the same time. She said she knew something about the land behind the fence, something important. And that was when my whole world started to change. When my teacher told me she knew something about the land behind the fence, my stomach felt tight like someone tied a rope around it. She told me to follow her to the staff room. I walked behind her quietly, praying in my mind that she would not say something that would make everything spoil. When we reached the staff room, she sat down and told me to close the door. The room smelled of chalk and old books. A ceiling fan was making a soft clicking sound. I stood in front of her table with my hands joined together. She told me the land behind the fence was not empty. She said it belonged to a group that helped people who were going through hard times. She said some families who lost their homes stayed there for some months before finding their feet again. I felt a small shock in my chest. I never believed anyone lived there. Then she said something that made me hold my breath. She said a girl about my age was staying there. A girl who hardly talked to anyone. A girl who lost her father recently and whose mother was still in the hospital getting treatment. I felt my heart sink like it was falling through my stomach. Everything began to make sense. The crying, the singing, the shakiness in her voice, the day she walked away. The teacher said the girl loved to sing but was scared of crowds. She stayed away from people most times. She sang early in the morning because it was the only time she felt safe. The teacher looked at me for a long moment and asked if I wanted to meet her. My mind wanted to say yes straight away, but my mouth did not move. I was scared too. What if she thought I was disturbing her life? What if she never wanted to talk to anyone? But the teacher said she would talk to the people at the shelter and ask if the girl could come to the gate to meet me. When I left the staff room, my legs felt light like I was walking on air. I could not focus for the rest of the day. My classmates were making noise, pushing chairs, writing notes, but I was somewhere else. I kept imagining what she looked like. Did she smile? Did she always look sad? Did she think I was a troublemaker for calling her in the rain? My mind was full. The next morning I came even earlier than usual. I did not hear any singing. I stood at the fence and waited. I kept looking at the entrance of the abandoned land. The gate was still locked. My heart was beating fast. When the sky became brighter, I heard footsteps on the other side. Slow ones. Careful ones. My chest jumped. I waited without breathing. Then the gate opened slightly. A woman stood there. She looked at me and asked if I was the boy who always listened to the girl singing. I nodded because my voice refused to come out. The woman smiled small and moved to the side. Behind her, the girl stood. She had her head down. Her hands were held tightly together. Her clothes were clean but old. Her slippers were worn out. She looked like someone who had carried too many tears inside her body. I took one step closer, but I made sure not to go near the fence so she would not feel scared. For a long time, she did not lift her head. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. Then she finally raised her face a little, just enough for me to see her eyes. They were red, like she had cried early that morning. She looked at me like she was afraid of what I would say. My mouth opened, but no words came out. She made a small sound, almost like she wanted to greet me, but her voice failed her. The woman beside her touched her shoulder softly. I did not know what to say, but I knew I wanted to say something that would not hurt her. I told her I always listened to her songs, and that her voice made my mornings better. Her eyes widened a little. Not shocked, but like she was hearing something she never expected. She did not smile, but her shoulders relaxed the smallest bit. That was how I met the girl behind the fence for the first time. And even though she barely spoke, something changed inside me from that moment. I knew her voice was not only a sound anymore. It was a story I wanted to understand. After meeting her that first morning, I could not stop thinking about her eyes. They looked tired, but there was something inside them that made me feel she wanted to trust someone even if she was scared. I did not know her name yet. The woman who brought her out said she would talk to my teacher about how the girl could help the choir. All day, my stomach felt full like I had eaten too much food, even though I had only eaten bread and tea. I kept replaying the moment she lifted her head. I kept hearing the small sound she made when she tried to greet me. It stayed in my ears longer than her songs. During break, I went to the music room. The teacher was there, arranging some old drums. She told me she already spoke to the people at the shelter, and they agreed the girl could join the choir practices, but only if she stayed in the small room behind the music office, where she would not see too many students. She said the girl still got scared easily. I nodded and tried not to show how excited I was. She told me I had to help because the girl did not talk much and she might need someone she already trusted. I promised to help. Inside my mind, I was already planning how I would make sure she felt safe. The next morning, I went to the fence again. She came out a few minutes later with the same quiet steps. Her hands were joined together again. She raised her head when she saw me. This time she greeted me with a tiny smile that almost disappeared as soon as it came. I greeted her back and told her the teacher said she could help the choir. Her eyes widened like she did not believe me. She looked at the woman beside her, who nodded. That was when she finally said her first full sentence to me. She said she was not sure she could sing in front of many people. Her voice was small and shaky. I told her she would not sing in front of anybody. She would stay in a small room and help us learn songs. She looked down at her feet like she was thinking. Then she nodded slowly. The first day she came into the school compound, she walked behind the woman from the shelter like someone entering a new world. She did not look at anyone. She held her hands tight. I walked beside them quietly, making sure I did not walk too close. When we reached the music room, the teacher welcomed her softly. She sat on a wooden chair in the corner, waiting like someone who did not know what would happen next. The choir members entered. Some students whispered when they saw her. Some looked confused because they had never seen her before. The teacher told everyone she was only there to help us, not to perform. The room became quiet. Then the teacher asked her to sing something small so we could hear. I saw her freeze, her shoulders lifted like she was carrying a heavy load. Her eyes became watery. Before she could panic, I told her she could face the wall if she wanted. She turned gently and faced the wall. Then she started singing. The whole room went silent. Her voice filled every corner, every space, every heart. I saw one girl in the choir put her hand on her chest. I saw one boy stop tapping his pen. Even the teacher closed her eyes. Her voice was not just sweet. It was strong in a way that made your heart feel soft. It carried sadness and hope at the same time. When she finished, nobody moved. It was like the air stopped. When she turned back, she looked scared again like she thought people would mock her. But nothing like that happened. The teacher thanked her. Some of the students nodded. Even though they did not talk to her, their faces changed. After choir practice, she stood up quietly. I walked with her back to the fence. She looked calmer than the first day. When she reached the gate, she stopped and looked at me. She said thank you. Her voice was still small, but it was clearer than before. I walked home that day feeling something new. Not excitement. Not fear. Something like I was part of something bigger than myself. And even though I did not know the full story of her pain, I knew her voice was carrying more than songs. It was carrying a wound she was trying to heal, one note at a time. Everything changed on the day of the choir competition. The compound was full of noise. Students were running up and down, teachers were shouting instructions, and the choir members were warming their voices. I kept looking at the small room behind the music office where she usually stayed. She had helped us practice for weeks. She taught us how to hold long notes, how to breathe, how to sing with feeling. Even though she never came out during full rehearsals, her voice shaped the whole choir. Everybody knew we sounded different because of her. The problem started 1 hour before we were to enter the school bus. Our lead singer, Chinyere, suddenly fainted. When she woke up, she could not talk. Her voice was gone. Panic filled the whole music room. Some students started crying. One boy said we should just give up because our whole performance was built around the lead voice. The teacher tried to calm everybody, but even she looked scared. The judges would never understand. I stood in one corner, my heart rolling in my chest. Then something came into my mind like a flash of lightning. It made my whole body feel warm and jumpy at the same time. I looked at the teacher and said we already had another voice. A strong one. A voice that had carried us for weeks, even if nobody saw her. The room became quiet. All eyes faced me. I told them she was in the small room. The teacher's eyes softened. She closed them for a moment like she was thinking deeply. Then she nodded. She asked me to go and call her. I walked to the small room with my heart beating inside my throat. When I opened the door, she was sitting on a chair with her hands folded like always. She looked up at me with worried eyes because she had heard the chaos outside. I told her everything. I told her how Chinyere lost her voice. I told her how the choir needed her. I told her she did not need to go on stage, that she could sing behind the curtain, and the choir would sing in front. She shook her head fast. Fear filled her eyes. She said she could not. She said her chest felt heavy. She said she would freeze. She said she had not stood near a crowd since her father died. Her breath became fast. Her hands shook. I knelt in front of her and told her she did not have to be strong for anyone else. She just had to sing like she always did in the morning. Just her voice, not her face, not her body, just the sound that healed people without them seeing her. She looked at me with tears filling her eyes. Her lips trembled. For a moment, I thought she would run. Then slowly, she nodded. At the venue, the crowd was huge. The hall smelled of perfume and hot lights. Students from other schools were tuning their instruments. We stood behind the big blue curtain. She hid behind a tall black speaker. Only I stood near her. When the announcer called our school name, my legs felt weak. We walked out, but she stayed behind the curtain like we planned. The music started. The choir came in softly. Then the moment arrived. The place where the lead voice was meant to rise. I looked towards the curtain even though she could not see me. I prayed inside my heart. Then her voice came. It rose gently at first, then grew stronger and fuller. The whole hall froze. People started turning their heads even though they could not see who was singing. The choir held their notes, guided by her sound. Every word she sang carried weight. It felt like she was pouring her whole life into the song. Pain, hope, fear, strength, everything. When the song ended, the hall was silent for a full second. Then a loud clap exploded. Shouting, whistling, applause that sounded like rain falling on zinc. She stayed behind the curtain until the end. When we left the stage, she held the curtain with shaking fingers. Her eyes were red, but she was breathing calmly. The teacher hugged her. Some students started crying and thanking her. She stood there like she could not believe what she had done. We won second place, but nobody cared about winning. Everybody only talked about the mystery voice from backstage. When we returned to school, something beautiful happened. Her mother had been discharged from the hospital and was brought to the hall by the shelter workers. She was sitting on a wooden chair with a wrapper around her shoulders. The girl froze when she saw her mother. She walked slowly, like she was afraid the woman would disappear. When she reached her, The woman stretched her arms. The girl fell into her embrace and cried in a way I had never seen before. Later, she sang a short song for her mother, just a small hymn. Her mother cried softly. Even the teacher wiped her eyes. A few weeks after that, she joined our school fully. On my first day of SS3, I reached school early out of habit. I waited near the gate, listening for her voice, but I did not hear singing. I turned around and saw her standing beside the fence. This time, she was the one waiting for me, and she smiled.